Now we're getting to hear an update in the Nagrota operation that a paper, in fact, was recovered from the slain terrorists, which has been written in Urdu. And as per what has been written on paper, it says that the entire attack was meant to avenge the death of Afsal Guru. So that's the news that we have just received, that piece of paper that has been recovered from a slain terrorist, Afsal Guru, who was convicted for his role in the 2001 Indian Parliament attack and received death sentence. So in that paper that has been recovered from the slain terrorist, it says that this particular attack was carried out to avenge his death. Gaurav Sawant, our executive editor, joins us for more on this. Gaurav, just give us more details on what exactly have they been able to find out through that paper that there has been recovered.
Avantika, India Today has accessed pictures of the death and destruction inside the army cantonment, inside that. And look at these images. The recoveries that have been made from the dead bodies of these terrorists very clearly indicate one piece of paper which says AGS at the left corner. Now, these are some papers that were on the dead bodies of these three terrorists. The AGS, according to sources in intelligence agencies, seems to indicate that they belong to the Afsal Guru squad of Jaish-e-Mohammed. Army is still not very clear whether it's Lashkar-e-Taiba or Jaish-e-Mohammed or a hybrid group that mounted this attack. But one thing is very clear, that their aim was to get maximum headlines. Three aspects of this. If you look at these images, some of the markings on the ammunition, on the weapons, on the equipment that these terrorists were carrying has a very clear Pakistan indication. Some others appear to be local purchases. So does that indicate that these terrorists infiltrated, came in and had local support within the country? That is a matter of investigation. The local support that these terrorists enjoyed, they had recce'd the area, and that very disturbing aspect that they knew chinks in Indian Army's armor at this location, barely half a kilometer from here. They knew that while the army was deployed in big numbers all along and had multi-tiered security here, as we see behind me, barely a kilometer down the road where that location is, there was no security. And why? Was it also because there's a local village in that area that these terrorists came dressed as policemen? Because local policemen do travel to villages to keep an eye, to interact. And is that the reason how terrorists managed to get to that area very easily, unchallenged and unchecked, and then they hurled grenades and came to that military area when they were finally confronted. So these are some aspects that are being investigated even as we speak. There are parallel searches and raids going on.
Right.
Jammu and Kashmir Police, the local intelligence unit and the intelligence bureau to find out where, if at all, they had local support.
So that's the big news. The reference made to Afsal Guru in that piece of paper that has been recovered from the slain terrorists. We have also with us Ashraf Bani. Ashraf, give us more details. What are you hearing from your sources and about that piece of paper, the contents of which have been written in Urdu?
Avantika, absolutely. I have seen this piece of paper. It can be read. It is in Urdu, where it is clearly written that this is another squad of Fidain in the Jammu and Kashmir on the name of Afsal Guru. You may know that Afsal Guru was hanged in 2013, and then this squad was formed by the Jaish-e-Mohammed in J&K, and there was many suicide attacks carried out by the Jaish-e-Mohammed, in which the Afsal Guru squads were sent across the border in Jammu and Kashmir. That was including the strike which was carried out in Pathankot base. That was also a squad of Afsal Guru, and that is same what we are seeing here.
Absolutely. And, Gaurav, this is a reminder of the attack that took place on the Indian consulate. Do you remember the Mazar-e-Sharif, where graffiti was found scrawled on the walls, where it was seen that words like Afsal Guru ka intikam was seen to be written?
We have seen after that period when Afsal Guru was hanged, it was announced publicly by the Jaish-e-Mohammed that they are going to form these squads which will carry out the suicide attacks in India and in the army in still coalitions.
Right.
And probably still there are some members which are of that group, and this letter clearly indicates that means it was purposely kept in the bag. It has written that Ghazwa Hind, the kind of Jadi language where they are trying to carry out the jihad against India, what is called the Ghazwa Hind. That is also mentioned in this slip.
Okay. Ashraf, stay with me. Let me just ask a quick question from Gaurav Sawant also, who is in Nagrota. All this, information, Gaurav, the evidence that has been recovered so far, the mentioning of Afsal Guru's name on that piece of paper points fingers at the Jaish-e-Mohammed, the involvement of Jaish-e-Mohammed in this particular attack as well.
Spot on. A series of terror attacks in India carried out by Jaish-e-Mohammed. The Pathankot terror attack, Jaish-e-Mohammed was responsible. A series of other terror attacks. Also attacks going all the way back to the attack on the Indian Parliament in December 2001, which was traced back to, the Jaish-e-Mohammed. Of course, also a hybrid group that they said, Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed operating in tandem. Now, these are terror groups trained, armed, funded and launched by Pakistan's ISI. In the current case, when you analyze the kind of equipment these terrorists were carrying, the arms, the ammunition, the grenades, sources say they all have Pakistani markings, and we put out those images, the medicines, the bandages that terrorists were carrying, the dry fruits that terrorists were carrying, the energy drinks that terrorists were carrying made in Pakistan. So all of that are indication of where these terrorists came from. But the uniform, where were these uniforms stitched? And that is where the indication, according to some sources in intelligence agencies, is that these uniforms were stitched domestically, indicating that these terrorists spent some time in India before they launched a terror attack here. All of that, of course, is a matter of investigation at this point of time. The terror attack that was launched at this medium artillery regiment. Local support to terror is something that the army and the local police need to investigate in the right earnest, because all along, when you see the kind of security that is deployed all over this place, there were chinks only in one or two places. Sadly, residential quarters of officers and men, that is where terrorists succeeded in striking, and that's not hapstance, that's not a chance. That is very clear design and an orchestrated attack.
Okay, stay with me. We also are getting in now India Today's editor, Shiv Arur. Shiv, that's the worrying part, isn't it? These new strategies that the terrorists are adopting, the new tactics to hoodwink the armed forces across the country, the way they come dressed in army fatigues and in this case in police uniform.
Very, very, specific findings on the site of this particular terror attack, Avantika, that point to very disturbing findings. The images that we've got on our screens right now that India Today has accessed before anybody else, paint a very, very disturbing picture. Take a look at these pieces of paper that have been found among the ammunition, the magazines and the other war stores that the terrorists actually brought with them. You've got two pieces of paper, both of them inscribed in Urdu. One of them talks about the Fidain of Ghazwa-e-Hind, which indicates, a formation set to invade or take over India, annex India. And here you've got the only English letters in these two pieces of paper, AGS, which stands for Afsal Guru Squad that Gaurav and I have just been, talking about, which is a new special unit of the Jaish-e-Mohammed, where it specifically talks about revenge for Afsal Guru's execution by the Indian government. So this is a specific unit that the Indian armed forces have encountered before a couple of times. Obviously, this is an indication that this particular squad is receiving, paramount military and commando training by the Pakistan Army and the ISI, and that it still has the vitality and capacity to mount such, audacious strikes pretty deep within Indian territory. This particular one happened, taking place at the Nagrota, very close to the core headquarters. A closer inspection of all of these warlike stores, Avantika, will indicate that, the planning, the modus operandi of these small groups of terrorists hasn't changed very much since the Pathankot attack. Small groups of terrorists, minimal planning, a very little logistical footprint in terms of what they're actually carrying with them. but clearly an indication of just how well trained they are. This is going to be a huge onus on the Indian government to formulate some kind of massive response to the threat that this represents.
Oh, absolutely. Shiv, thanks so much. We're also getting some more breaking news that India today has accessed the images of the 3 slain terrorists. The terrorists who were seen in police uniform, who stormed into the army cantonment area in Nagrota and who managed to enter the army unit. Their bodies, in fact, were left untouched through the night because the forces were unsure of whether the bodies were be trapped with bombs, and it was only till the bomb squad checked their bodies did the forces clear the corpses. So those are the images. The images that we're showing you right now is the recovery that has been made by the Indian Army from those 3 slain terrorists. But let's just also go straight across to Executive Editor Gaurav Sawant. Gaurav, lots of activity going on in Nagrota, the kind of findings, the recovery. Tell us a little bit more.
This is a massive investigation because this is one big blow to India's claims of massive damage to Pakistan's terror infrastructure and psyche by the surgical strikes and the punitive fire assault that was mounted. Now, we were given to believe the impact was such that it had an impact on terrorists across, but terrorists have mounted a very audacious counter-terror, audacious counter-offensive, and hitting where it hurts, hitting families of soldiers who are engaged in combat. There's another aspect here. Was this target so carefully chosen? Because as far as the fire assault is concerned, gunners, artillery, they've played a very crucial role all along the line of control. India is constantly saying that our artillery is far superior to the Pakistanis, and the Pakistanis have then struck at the heart of gunners' location here in the White Knight Corps, which has played a pivotal role in the fire assault all along the LC. So all of that are aspects that the national security machinery is looking at very closely. From what my sources are telling me, there are punitive strikes that are currently underway already at different locations. India will keep quiet about it. It's for Pakistan to feel that pain, but simultaneously, it's also for India to ensure that there are no chinks in India's armor. You see a lot of military vehicular movement all along this highway. There are several top army officers, police officers who are constantly going up and down this national highway, which is by and large closed for civil public movement as of now. But that is also because investigations are underway, operations are underway, mopping up operations are underway. As of now, from what we've been told, they've ultimately decided that it appears that there were only 3 terrorists. All 3 terrorists have been killed, area sanitized. There was some equipment, some ammunition that was,
Right.
bogey ammunition, half-exploded ammunition. There are controlled explosions that are going on even as we speak to destroy all of that and then sanitize this area before, and this is what top sources in the army are telling me, before they teach state sponsors of terror a lesson, which will happen and is happening.
Absolutely, Gaurav. Thanks so much for joining us. Ashraf, thanks so much for getting us the very latest. We will continue to get you all the latest updates coming in on the kind of investigations that has already begun in the Nagrota attack. Images of the terror that was unleashed at the army base. These images speak 1,000 words of the kind of violence and bloodshed that the inhabitants of the army camp had to witness after terrorists entered the army unit yesterday morning. In the hour-long operation, buildings, in fact, were even destroyed, and there was absolutely endless bloodshed, as we have seen through those images. In fact, what we're hearing is that the army is still continuing to conduct a combing operation after 7 soldiers lost their lives, including 2 officers who were martyred in that terrible terror attack. Combing operations continue because there is a suspicion that there could be another terrorist still hiding inside the army cantonment area. Bomb disposal squads have also been deployed to neutralize any possible explosive material brought in by the 3 dead terrorists. Their bodies have not yet been removed due to doubt that they could be trapped. On Tuesday, a group of heavily armed suicide attackers in police uniforms had stormed the army base in Nagrota, which is just about a few kilometers from Jammu. They first targeted the army mess, and then they targeted 2 residential buildings that inhabit officers and their families. The terrorists were shot dead, but not before 7 of our brave soldiers lost their lives fighting the terrorists.